right, welcome to Intro Skippers, where an entertainment journalist and an entertainer are friends who love streaming entertainment and are talking to you about it. There is no reason you should be saying there's nothing to watch because we have plenty to watch. Hi everyone. What's up, Jason? What are you
Hi.
wearing?
I thought we were cosplaying this week for this episode.
Nah, you must have been talking to someone else because I'm not known to be a cosplayer, but...
Neither am I, but once the Gilded Age went to Arizona and there were all the cowboys and mine owners out there, I was like, this is my season. This is going to be my jam.
Yes, this is it. I'm one of the clodhoppers.
I am. Hello, how are you?
Hi, everyone. This is Jason Charles Miller. I am Kim Horcher. And today we are talking about maybe our favorite show, which, wow, that sucks because it's extremely off-brand for both of us. But here we are. That is the power of good entertainment. It makes you change genres.
It's our favorite show to love and hate. Sometimes we get Gilded Rage over the Gilded Age.
Well, I mean, you know, this is our version of watching Love Island, which is the hit of the summer.
Oh, wow.
I keep hearing, oh, you gotta watch it. And I think, I don't think I should.
No, I don't think
I don't think I should. It's just going to suck me in and I'm not going to have time to do anything else. And, you know, as a freelancer, I shouldn't be doing things like that.
Yep. As creators, we've got to be creating more than we're consuming.
Oh, I am not creating more than I'm consuming. But maybe I'll work on that. You know, I've been like off camera, like thinking, what do I do next with my career? And it's scary because when you're largely freelancing, it's like, how do I climb the ladder? I can't. What do I do next? I don't know.
Yeah. How do I get the attention of so-and-so to give me a job?
I don't know.
Yeah. So
I guess I should have been born someone's niece, but I wasn't.
You should have been born the daughter of George Russell.
No, because then I would be married off to some guy that I don't want to be married to. Well, I mean, we can get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. Because, you know, he actually showed personality sort of at the end of the episode. But I'm jumping ahead. We're doing like a Gilded Age check-in after 3 episodes.
Yes,
right?
This is the 3-episode check-in. I don't know if this is 33% of the way through this season or 25%. I don't know. But we're doing maybe quarterly, in parentheses, question mark, check-in of the Gilded Age. So, yeah, that's what it is. It's the title of the episode. I didn't need to beleaguer any of it. We really like this show. To me, it's a bit escape light, like kind of like I used to watch the show Terrace House on Netflix before it was canceled due to some pretty bad circumstances. But before that point, it was sort of a comfy, boring show. And I say boring in the most loving way possible. It's slow moving. Yeah. The stakes are usually pretty low, like on Downton Abbey, which is made by the same creator, Sir Julian Fellowes. Co-creator. There's other people working on this one as well. And we explore, there are some real themes in here. For instance, post-Civil War Black life in society. This is not a demographic of people that have been largely explored in popular media. So it's interesting to see what that looks like, especially, you know, by the time we get to episode 3, we see what the Black elite are doing. And I'll get into more of that later. We're also looking at the constraints on women, not just rich women in particular, like in Downton Abbey. We're looking at labor. We're getting a peep into what that era of history might have been like. And I say that because it is not historical, it's historical fiction.
Right. Yeah. And they like to bring in certain actual characters to sort of weave in and out of the story. Like the painter and stuff like that. But
though in real life, the painter was known for being huge, like 6'4". So I'm curious as to why they didn't cast a 6'4" actor, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, minor detail, I suppose, right?
Yeah. So we're going to be covering the first 3 episodes of season 3. I suppose spoilers. And I suppose spoilers for the rest of the Gilded Age if you haven't seen it. But I'm guessing if you haven't seen it, you don't really care, and maybe you're looking for a reason to see it.
maybe my awesome outfit attracted you to click on this thumbnail.
But it's not in the thumbnail, is it?
It will be. I'll make sure.
Not for
it
the
is.
audio podcast.
Not for the audio podcast.
Maybe
no.
on YouTube. It's on Spotify too, right? The video?
Yeah, on YouTube and Spotify, you will see the thumbnail of me in this dapper outfit.
And me looking like this.
You're in a dapper outfit of your own. It's just more modern.
I'm wearing a tank top.
You're a time traveler, okay?
I was not told we would be dressing up, and if we were, I don't have an era-specific outfit that would work.
Well,
Go ahead.
I made this decision about 8 minutes before I started this session for us to record. So
you're like, it's summer. I know what I'll do. Put on my warmest look.
Well, I have a jacket too, but that's not going on.
Yeah. But they also, on your note of inserting real-world historical figures, Nathan Lane plays one, but we haven't seen him in this season yet. A lot of the main characters are sort of based on real people, if not amalgamations of people or composites of certain people. For instance, the Russells very much are. George Russell is sort of based on many robber barons of the era,
right.
Like Jay Gould, but more specifically Cornelius or William Henry Vanderbilt. Based on temperament, position, industries, Bertha is Alva Vanderbilt. Gladys is Consuelos Vanderbilt. And Larry is kind of like William K. Vanderbilt, but not really, because that was the one who was married to Alva, and that's his mom. But yeah, just based on his interest in architecture. And I don't think the Van Ryns are necessarily based on specific figures, or the Van Ryn Fortes. Which is Christine Baranski, Cynthia Nixon, and Louisa Jacobson. But, they're kind of the era.
Yeah, maybe they represent an amalgamation of, like, obviously old school money versus new money.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. It's funny that you mentioned Downton Abbey earlier, obviously, because, as you said, Julian Fellows created both shows. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of... I loved Downton Abbey. Rewatched it twice.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I am, I don't know,
wow.
A Downton head? What do you call it? Like, Mr. Carson is my guiding light. I think to myself, when I do an action, I think to myself, would Carson approve of this or not? Would he frown on this?
Carson was such a, fuddy-duddy.
Yeah, I know. But if you earned his respect, you got it. That was something.
I don't respect classists, and that comes up a lot in this show and the other show.
Does. Yeah.
So just to summarize a little bit, episode 1, it's called Who is in Charge Here? So after the season 2 finale, where the Van Ryns lost their money because Oscar Van Ryn, who is the son of Agnes Van Ryn, invested it all in a scam and lost it.
Mm-hmm.
But Cynthia Nixon's character, Ada, unexpectedly inherited a fortune from her husband, who she didn't know was rich, but apparently he was, which is kind of a huge deus ex machina, which I think Julian Fellows likes to do, because he kept doing that in Downton Abbey as well, where it's like, oh no, a problem. It's immediately solved. I can't tell you how many times he likes to use that technique.
He does, but in one way, it definitely, there are other shows that have frustrated me as a viewer because the problem just lingers on. He doesn't let it linger. Didn't you and I talk about this, where there's the longest a problem ever lingers in Downton Abbey is 3 episodes?
3, if that. I feel 2 is where it goes, really. Where it's just like, oh no, this blackmailer's gonna get us. Oh, she died. Oh no, the family fortune's in trouble. Oh no, it's fixed. It just keeps happening so quickly. And it's...
Yeah.
I mean, you get immediately relieved in that way, but also it feels a little too simple, So, the house has money still, but who is holding the reins changes. In the Russell house, George Russell goes out west to expand his railroad empire. and secure copper-rich land. I think what he is working on is what becomes known as the Transcontinental Railroad. Back in New York, that's Carrie Coon, one of the best performances in the show, by the way, presses ahead with forcing her daughter to marry the Duke of Buckingham, which is very much like what Alva Vanderbilt did to her daughter Consuelos with the Duke of Marlborough. And tensions come to a head when Gladys rebels and runs away. Also, Marion from the Van Ryn household is courting Larry Russell from the Russell household.
Right. Or is he courting her?
He's courting her.
Right.
Peggy, who is she the secretary?
Yes, she is the secretary of Agnes Van Ryn.
Yes. So she works for Agnes, and she's also a writer, and she's working on a novel, and has previously worked in I think still works in many journalistic and magazines endeavors.
She just switched from last season where she was working for the Globe, and then the editor of the Globe, who was married, pushed it a little too far. And then now she's working for a new paper and writing her book at the same time.
So she gets sick suddenly, and the Agnes calls her doctor to come treat her, and he won't treat her because he is racist, which is a big theme in this show. We're only 20 years removed from the Civil War, so this is fresh in everyone's minds at this point in time.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but we know that Peggy's father is a former slave who was emancipated and built up his own business, became a pharmacist, and pretty much a pillar of his community. But he's seen a lot. So there's different points of view from both him and his wife toward what is the way Black people are getting treated. And, his is more like, of course, it's this, it's full of prejudice, and people are, are racist. And, and the wife is more like, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. And that's happened a lot this season. I mean, they go over to see Agnes, and she says, I was taught to always respect others and be polite. And while the wife is like, oh, cool, the husband is like, yeah, but do you know how hard it is to be Black? Do you know what you're doing? Am I the only Black person you've ever met besides the one who works for you?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we're going there, because it's on one hand, I think Julian Fellows loves to have the aristocracy be, good, virtuous people who are saviors of what is clearly right and wrong. But here we see a little nuance, which is she is on the right side of history, but she's largely ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting to see these different points of views. And I think I credit the creatives who aren't Julian Fellows for doing that.
Yeah, because if you look at Downton Abbey, they had maybe like a 3-episode arc on racism in their 60 plus episodes,
and it was really tone deaf too.
Yeah,
where Lady Rose was like, I love him, and they were like, why? And I was thinking, yeah, also why? And he was also like, wait, do you like me, or are you just doing this to do this?
Yeah, you're just trying to make your parents mad.
Yeah.
But anyway, we digress. I did find that, especially episode 1, now it got better in episode 2 and 3, but in episode 1, there was so much exposition in the dialogue. And I know that, yes, some of that is required in a new season when you're trying to remind the audience what's happened. But there is also a previously on section that you just showed, and then you have to come up and say everything again. It just felt very like, okay, we get it. We understand. Yes, Oscar lost everyone's money. You got to say it like 9 times. There was just, the exposition was just felt so, it was just so much, so extra.
So heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And, not smoothly executed.
Certainly not.
Oh, I forgot to mention Aunt Ada, who was previously the cool aunt, is no longer cool because she is forcing her staff to sign a sobriety pledge for her temperance movement, which means no drinking. And that also means at home when they're not working, which to me sounds terrible. You cannot force your employees to not drink in their private lives. Or this reminds me of bosses forcing their workers to vote the same way they voted. Ugh. Which is kind of messed up, though I have looked into it, and at the time, she would have been within her rights to ask that of her employees.
Wow. Well, it's funny
right?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, Kim, because I have a temperance pledge that I thought we could both sign today on the show.
No.
All right.
No. You're not the boss of me, and if you were, still no. No. See, this is something about this, because we think pretty much Agnes is the conservative aunt and Ada is the cool aunt. But this season, Agnes has been like, you know what? No temperance. I'm in favor of alcohol. Also in favor of black people. Also in favor of women's suffrage. So it turns out everything swapped.
Yeah. I wonder, is that Julian Fellows trying to tell us that when you are in power, you
suck?
Yeah, like when you're in power, you become more fuddy-duddy like? I don't know.
Maybe, because the reason she's going for temperance is so dumb. Okay, she said it was to honor her late husband, but he wasn't a teetotaler. He wasn't into temperance. So how is that honoring him? Pick something he likes if you're going to honor him.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
They're really pushing that home. And I have to admit, like, I know that he came around last season and they fell in love or whatever, but I barely remember him.
He was not a very well-crafted character. He was pretty one-dimensional, if I'm honest. He's just like a nice man who was good and always does good, and everyone likes him because he's good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Then he dies.
That brings up some of the problems that I have with the show in general. And that is, I can't help but compare it to Downton Abbey. And in Downton Abbey, it was about one household. Mm-hmm. The Gilded Age is about two households that live across the street from each other. But the problem is you get way less backstory from everyone. And you get way less story from everyone. So it's that much harder to like some of these characters. And it's that much harder to really know what their past is and what they're all about.
Truly, like in Downton Abbey, we had the upstairs life and the downstairs life. What is life like for the working class? But here, there's less of a focus on that. We don't really get to know any of the workers that well. Maybe Jack, because he is now partnering with Larry to sell his alarm clock invention. But the rest of them, I couldn't even name all of them. Whereas in Downton Abbey, I could name everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are these people's characteristics? What is the characteristic of the Irish maid besides she is Irish and she's nice? This is very flat characterization. Even main characters are kind of flat. Like, I think Marion is the flattest, weakest link in the entire main cast.
I do too.
She is very underdeveloped, very bland.
It's a shame, but it's true. It's
and she's supposed to be the point of view character, or she was.
Have you noticed that they've kind of backed off on that a lot?
I think it's because Louisa Jacobson is one of the weaker actors.
Yeah, and then I hate to say that about, someone else in the entertainment business, fellow entertainer, but yeah.
She is the weakest one. She is Meryl Streep's daughter, in case you weren't aware. Meanwhile, we have Carrie Coon and Christine Baranski.
Killing it,
nailing it every time, just being the highlight of every scene they're in. So it's kind of a sharp contrast. And a lot of the actors are very strong. These are well-known Broadway actors. And this cast is just lousy with Broadway actors. And they're good. I want them to start singing, but I don't see how they're ever going to make that work. But I would say Louisa Jacobson is clearly the weakest link among them. Sorry.
It's the musical episode. No, we don't need that.
Just like on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't see this cast doing that, but maybe not. I
I
could see
this
the
cast doing it, but I can't see these characters doing that.
Yeah, I could see the cast doing it for
I
sure.
think Daddy Railroad is actually a very strong singer, so this could be very good. I don't know. But about the back to the temperance movement, this was a cause for middle-class women in America. Ada is not middle class. She's upper class. So I don't know what we're even doing with this storyline. I think it needs to transform into either civil rights or suffrage, which are much more worthy topics to donate to and make your whole thing.
I did notice that at the end of episode 3, it seemed like she was coming around and figuring out that...
No. She was coming around to spiritualism.
Well, when she was talking with the cook at the end,
the cook was like, "Do you want to speak to your husband one more time?" And she said, "Yes." And she was like, "I think I know who can help you." I think that's leaning into spiritualism.
Oh, totally. Like they're 1,000%. I predict they're going to be going to a fortune teller, and there's going to be a seance and all that stuff. But what I meant was,
there's going to be a new charlatan character.
Yeah. What I meant was that she's coming around to the fact that no one's into the temperance movement and that she's probably going to abandon that.
I really liked when they were asking the head butler, did anyone sign the pledge? And he said, yes, just one. And she said, who? And he said, just Armstrong. Mm-hmm. And then Agnes got really upset because that's her maid. And she went, what? My maid? Bring her here immediately. And then she was like, and Armstrong is, by the way, the one who sucks. The one who is racist.
She's the racist maid. And like we know more. That's the thing about what's happening right now with the show is we know more about the racist maid than we know about a lot of the other servant characters who are probably way cooler than the racist maid. Just saying.
The cooks are both cool. Mm-hmm. The younger women are cool, except for the younger one in the Russell house who was telling Jack, like, hey, stop trying to do well in your life. You're just a servant. You have to be a servant, which, you shut up.
Yeah.
And we spent so much time on this person who sucks. I think Downton did that too, though, right? We paid a lot of attention to that one maid who was a real jerk and maybe caused a miscarriage.
Yeah, no, probably definitely did. But there was a means to that because they were, I think, getting rid of her, right? Weren't they going to get rid of her? And I mean, the under butler, whose name I can't remember right now, he was kind of a jerk all 6 seasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one who was clearly gay?
Yeah, Thomas. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess
there's a lot of characters that have a direct analog to this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sassy old lady, the character who is obviously closeted, the ingenue, there's more. There's plenty more.
By the way, she's pulling it off, but Taissa
Farmiga?
Yeah, I mean, hey, hats off to you for being 31 and playing a 17-year-old. She's pulling it off.
I was shocked by that. She is pulling it off. I think she does a really good job with her part because she plays like such an awkward kind of steamrolled daughter. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when they're wearing extravagant outfits, Gladys will look like the outfit is wearing her. She'll be like small in it. She won't look confident. She'll look like she doesn't want any of this. And she's really good at playing off those looks of fear and terror and discomfort, which happens a lot this season because her major plot line is her mother wants to betroth her to the Duke, and she does not want to marry the Duke. She wants to marry Billy Armstrong.
Yes.
And after episode 1, I mean, I only outlined episode 1, but after episode 1, she runs away in probably the worst outfit I've ever seen in my life. And she runs away to not elope, just go to her boyfriend's mom's house and wait for her mom to show up and listen to her. But of course, her mom doesn't do that. She should know what her mom is like. And her mom drags her back home and tries to manipulate the situation more for the papers to run rumors that, oh, she's going to be engaged. And the, George Russell is like, what is this? What? We're doing this? I told you to stop. It's causing a lot of issues between them. And I wonder what this will result in, because I don't know how the story is going to unfold, because the real life Vanderbilts, they did get the daughter to marry off to the Duke, but she cried the entire time at the altar, had a miserable life, and eventually did divorce him. They weren't compatible. They didn't get along eventually. And it was a bad choice for her in general. She was kind of treated like her mother's doll, which is very much like what's happening on the show. Like I mentioned, she doesn't look right in the outfit she's wearing. It's clear that someone else has dressed her.
Yeah.
And that is making her do this thing that she's not entirely comfortable with. Though the Vanderbilts did actually get divorced historically. And in the show, they're showing tension and stress between the two of them because of this brokering of a marriage that Bertha is so insistent on. So I don't know where that's going to go, because they are perhaps one of the only couples in the show, or at least the only married couple, that seems to actually love each other.
That's true. And they always talk about how they married for love. Like George will keep bringing that up over and over again.
Yeah. Well, Gladys did too. She was like, why can't I marry for love like you? And she was just like, I was no one. Okay. You're someone. And you could really have a chance. I think she's frustrated with what she can achieve as a woman. And this is, the lane that the only lane she can really run in. So why not be the top of it, I guess? But it still sucks.
I mean, it goes to a deeper issue of arranged marriages and things that were happening a lot more in society back then, especially in the upper class. But, I think that at the end of episode 3, when she's tugging at her pearls and then
they all fall,
like clearly that's symbolism, but is it a red herring?
It's clearly symbolism. I don't think it's cleverer than that. When pearls symbolize what? Purity, divineness, happiness. And that's to show, her hopes and dreams are at an end. Because she's agreed to do this. And she learns that Billy is no longer an option, because she asks her brother to go tell him that I'm not engaged and we can still be together. And then her brother comes back and says, I'm sorry. He said he didn't see a route to doing it. I guess Mom really burned that bridge.
Yeah.
But I guess the mom was kind of right. He didn't love her enough, I guess. Where do you stand on that? Because I see it as, you two are in love. What do you know about love? What does anyone in this era know about love? It took you how long to say this?
Right. And also, I remember in episode 2, there was a party, and Billy was going to present himself. He was going to go up to Mr. Russell and ask Mr. Russell for his daughter's hand in marriage. He was going to do it in front of everyone. And then he walked into the room and froze and then walked out. And then everyone else in the room goes, well, that was odd. I wonder what that was all about.
Loser.
Yeah. So, maybe he just wasn't ready.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's that balance between old money and new money. I mean, people on the old money side are saying things like, his mother said, let me pull rank by saying my ancestors signed the Declaration of Independence. And I was like, when I heard that, I was like, shut up. No one cares. No one asked you. Pulling rank.
Growing up in Virginia near Washington, D.C., there were these organizations called like Daughters of the American Revolution.
Okay, but what did you do?
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, so imagine that 100 years later and more, so I don't know.
It's the most pathetic kind of Nepo that I've heard of, which is like, my ancestor did this and that and this and that, and I've been riding their coattails ever since. Big deal. Who cares?
Yeah.
Do something else. Use your generational wealth to do something instead of, throw a ball and wear jewels. Ooh.
Well, the internet didn't exist back then, so people were bored.
I guess. Fine. Another new theme is in Peggy's story. So Peggy has had a lot of troubles this entire series, and with generally racial prejudice. And even Marion had a very awkward moment with her where she thought that donating a bag of old shoes to her would really help her family. Meanwhile, her
Oh, yeah.
family has a very nice house and a staff of their own, maids and cooks and stuff. They're not poor. So why did you assume they were poor, Marion? And we all know the answer why. She's had to run away from racists in the South. She's had a couple really doomed romances. She's had to deal with some bad parts of her past. But now it seems like she's getting a good turn because the doctor who was treating her when she was sick, who eventually treated her, was a Black doctor. And he is interested in her romantically, even though he saw her at her worst, which, good for him. And it seems like they might be getting together.
But then you think it's all going to go great for Peggy, and then it turns out that the doctor's mom really
played
sucks.
by Felicia Rashad.
Yes,
the legend.
Yes, I was happy to see her, but her character is a jerk.
She's a colorist, and it's interesting that they're introducing that this early in a historical thing, because I think we think of colorism as being this modern concept, but it really isn't. And it's largely stemmed in, I hate to say it, white supremacy, where it's like having these more Eurocentric looks means that you're a higher status for whatever reason. And it really sucks. Though I will say in real life, Felicia Rashad was an emeritus of Howard University and not a jerk. So, you know, that's just the character.
And it's also cool that then I think maybe that was a slight nod that her son in the plot went to Howard University
instead of Harvard, where he could have gone. So choosing, I mean, now we know it as a historically Black college, but then it would have just been a Black college. And choosing that over Harvard, which is deemed, by outside of the Black community as being the best, is a real show. And it says a lot about esteem of that school and what is valued in this part of society, the Black part, because they go to Newport where they're with the Black elite, and it's a very different world in Newport than it is in New York, where, the largely white society lives.
Although Newport is a vacation place for everyone, right?
It's like a status thing. Like, oh, we summer in Newport. It's, I'm rich enough to also stay there.
Like how the Hamptons are today, supposedly.
Yeah. I think so. I couldn't say because I'm not from New York. I think that's the case, right? The Hamptons are where rich New Yorkers go.
I believe so. Yeah.
What is the equivalent here? Is it Palm Springs?
Catalina Island, baby.
Catalina Island is not well-to-do. Okay?
I know. I'm just kidding.
No.
Yeah, I guess Palm Springs, probably Palm Springs.
Maybe. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we're different.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we are right now. We ended on underlying tensions between different kinds of people in Black society, or elite Black society at the time. And again, I think it's really interesting that we're covering this because, or not we, but the show is covering this because this is not well represented in fiction or in television, at least.
Yeah, and look, for all of the problems that I have with the show, they're getting some vibes right, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and though I will say they've previously gotten many vibes very, very wrong in season 2 and season 1. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, they're at least they're trying to right the ship, I think.
Well, it's been very limited in terms of depth on social issues like race, class, the plight of women, and it's handled pretty superficially. So what I would love to see is really actually facing these issues, these real issues that continue to affect people. So I would be shocked if they did that, but I would be pleasantly surprised if they did, because In my head, it's Julian Fellows and then a bunch of less stodgy old British men behind the scenes. And I see them as being like, we should do this. And him going, oh, no, the rich will always help the poor because they're morally good. And then we should solve this problem in one episode. And
his main co-writer this season is Sonia Warfield.
Yeah. So hopefully Sonia gets more of an influence.
Yeah. By the way, before we go, did you think that when John Singer Sargent was going to reveal the picture, the portrait, that it was going to be controversial in some way because he was known for that in actual history? It would have been
controversial to me. Okay, so the historical backing for that was that he painted a painting called Madame X, and it was so risque because the woman's strap was off her shoulder and you could see her bare shoulder, and that's considered, so scandalous. But then he painted over it and fixed it so everyone could chill out.
Apparently his career was never the same after that, though. A lot of people didn't hire him.
Apparently he went back to Europe when that happened. So he wouldn't have been in New York at this time to paint Gladys.
Yeah.
But I think I've seen a very similar painting with a woman in a pretty much the exact same dress that Gladys is wearing, the white with the green sash.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that they decided to adapt that way. It reminds me of What We Do in the Shadows when they inserted them into well-known paintings.
Right. I know. I love that.
Yeah. So we'll see where this goes. I should hope they drop this stupid temperance storyline and focus on something that matters.
Like fortune tellers.
Oh, and what's this young Harold Houdini got to say about spiritualism?
That would be amazing.
I think it's too early for Houdini. Let's see.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Houdini birth date. No, he would be 10 years old at this point in history.
Maybe
so it's not till later.
Maybe it's young Houdini. You never know.
A little boy who's like, I think that's not real. I mean, they kind of play with timelines anyway, because I've heard this was maybe an original choice they were going to do, and they might have pivoted away, but they were going to lead into Downton Abbey, which takes place a little bit later. And the mother in that show is an American dollar princess, much like Gladys is. So it'd be funny if that was in the series finale, but we'll see. At this point in time, I think she would also be a child.
Yeah, but originally it was going to be the mother of the Countess, right?
Cora.
Yeah, Cora's mom.
Cora Crawley. Oh,
yeah.
Cora is the one who became the mom.
Right.
In Downton Abbey.
So it was going to be about her mom.
Her mom?
That was the original idea, that it was going to be about her mom, because remember how her mom is super rich.
Yeah. So her mom instead of Bertha, or
Right.
Okay.
Like that was like, I think, how they originally slated it.
I don't really like that.
Yeah. It's better.
Yeah.
I think it's better this way.
I think it is better this way. Plus, if they wanted to do more Downton content, they could just make that as a prequel to Downton instead of the Gilded Age, which is an American show.
Right. I've always had this idea that they should take Downton and reboot it from the sons and daughters where they left it off. So make those kids adults and then just start it all over again. And see how
1960s.
Yeah, see how they enter the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and more of the problems of nobility then. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because in Downton they are like, oh, we have to save Downton Abbey. It's so important for us to maintain this great house. And in this show, George Russell is like, I don't care if your house falls apart. That's not my problem. Okay, this is the offer and it's great. And if you don't take it, you're stupid and your house is going to fall apart and that's your problem. So,
hey, he knows how to negotiate.
Same thing.
He knows how to negotiate.
He loves to yell. I mean, for him, he's been having more fights than deals lately.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Lots of arguing in meetings and not many deals closed. Though he has hung out with JP Morgan, who was a real character, obviously.
Right. In fact, JP Morgan is going to go in on this thing with him. So, but it's all on him if it fails. But if it succeeds,
it's all
then
on you.
Yeah, if it succeeds, it's we all win. But it made me think about my Chase credit card because J.P. Morgan Chase.
Oh wow! So you're looking at it and you're like,
whoa,
dude.
Yeah.
Oh man. So we'll see where that goes, if they'll follow the historical precedent or if they go off path. I don't know. It seems like Bertha might try to thwart the Mary and Larry relationship, but I think that one will happen.
I think now that she has gotten her daughter betrothed to the Duke, what happens to her son is less important, probably. So
it might be like, how she and George have been fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he might be like, you already got your way this way. You can't do it again. And then she'll be like, fine.
There you go. Yeah.
We should let at least one of our children marry for love.
Well, let's do another check-in then.
Yeah.
In a few weeks or maybe at the end of the season. I don't know how many episodes there are.
We can easily find out. Hold on.
Is it an 8er or a 10er or a 12er?
It was 10 previously.
Okay.
But I also know they weren't sure if they would get renewed. Season 3 episodes.
So far, this season has way too little Nathan Lane.
Ooh.
We need lots of Nathan Lane.
It looks like there are only 8 episodes.
Okay.
Instead of 10.
Then
people need to watch this if we don't want it canceled.
Come on, people.
Watch our boring show, okay? Not this show that we're doing. That's not boring. Watch our boring show, The Gilded Age, so we can keep watching it.
Look, watch it for architectural ideas, if anything. Just look at all the cool stuff. And
there is an architectural subplot, so there you go.
Yeah.
Watch it for the history, but not too close because it's not exactly historically accurate, but for the vibes, the history vibes, we need more of that.
Yeah.
I may have talked myself into a corner.
Look, watch it for the chandeliers, okay?
Yeah.
If anything, just pause on the chandeliers.
Do it for the chandeliers and for the intricate, stupid statues. Please think of the intricate, stupid statues.
Look, it's going to keep Hollywood going, okay? Somebody had to remake all of those intricate statues. There was an artisan that had to make it for the show. So you're supporting...
this was definitely filmed in New York, but okay.
Okay. Well, okay. You're supporting the arts regardless.
The arts. All right. Okay. We've gone 44 minutes. I think it's about time we wrap up. But we will talk to you all next week about not the Gilded Age. Unless you have thoughts on the Gilded Age, then please email us at Jason, what is the address?
introskipperspod@gmail.com.
Yes, we all knew that. All right, send them there, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Intro Skippers with Jason Charles Miller and Kim Horcher is produced and edited by Kim Horcher and Jason Charles Miller. The name order doesn't really matter. Additional writing by Kim Horcher. Theme song and incidental music by Jason Charles Miller. Take it away, me. You can rate and review this show, 5 stars only please, anywhere you'd like, and you might find your review read on a future episode. Got a question? Email us at introskipperspod@gmail.com. That too could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Intro Skippers on your favorite podcast platform, but preferably one we're actually on. All right, thanks for getting this far. Here's a special